Hey, future microbiologist. Get ready, we're diving deep into how to ace that interview. We've got RoleCatcher's Microbiologist Career Guide and Interview Guide
Oh, these are fantastic resources.
to help you land that dream job.
It's really amazing how much they've put together here to help candidates prepare.
Yeah, and did you know that the demand for microbiologists is going to grow like 3% by 2029? That's a lot of opportunities out there.
Huge. And with all the changes happening in the field, it's really an exciting time to be a microbiologist.
It is. So let's jump right into it. The interview guide has 10 common questions they love to ask.
Oh, yeah, those tricky ones.
But don't worry, we're going to break them all down, give you some insider tips on how to answer like a total pro. Ready to tackle the first one?
Hit me with it.
All right, question number 1. Describe your experience with microbial identification techniques, like PCR and sequencing. Imagine you're in that interview chair. How would you even start?
Well, you got to remember what they're really asking here. They don't just want a list of techniques. They want to hear about your actual experience, how well you can explain it, how you've used it, in the real world.
So it's not just, yeah, I've done PCR and that's it.
Right. Exactly. RoleCatcher recommends using the STAR method, situation, task, action, result. And think about a specific project, maybe a research project where you used PCR or sequencing, and just, walk them through it. What was the situation? What were you trying to do? What did you do? And what happened?
I like that. The guide actually gives some sample responses too. One mentions a research project on antibiotic resistance. The candidate used PCR and sequencing to identify different bacterial species.
That's a perfect example. And don't be shy about the challenges you faced that you have to troubleshoot. Optimize the PCR. That's where you really show off your expertise.
That's a great point. Okay, so you've walked them through your experience. What kind of follow-up questions could they ask?
Oh, they'll definitely dig deeper. They might ask you to explain, the actual steps involved in PCR, or how sequencing works, or they might throw a curveball like, what if your PCR failed? How would you fix it?
Gotta be ready for anything.
Exactly. Okay, ready for question number 2.
I think so. What do we got?
How do you ensure the accuracy and reliability of your experimental data? So we're talking quality control.
Yeah, super important.
They're testing your meticulousness. They want to see you understand good lab practices because accuracy is key in microbiology.
Right. One tiny mistake could throw everything off. So how do we show them we're on top of it?
RoleCatcher really emphasizes structure, being specific. Think about every step from beginning to end. How you handle the samples, what controls you use. Do you calibrate your equipment? Double-check your calculations.
It's like a mental checklist, making sure everything is done right.
Precisely. You could even say something like, I always run duplicates and use both positive and negative controls to make sure my results are valid.
So you're proving you're thorough.
Right, and don't forget to mention following those standard protocols, showing you understand the importance of doing things the right way every time so your research can be reproduced.
Consistency is key.
Exactly. And if you've ever implemented a new quality control measure or improved an existing one, that's worth mentioning too. It shows you're always thinking ahead.
Initiative. Okay, question number 3. This one gets a little more personal. How do you stay current with the latest developments and trends in microbiology research?
It is more personal. They want to see your passion. Microbiology is a rapidly changing field. They need to know you're staying ahead of the curve.
How do we prove that?
RoleCatcher gives some good suggestions. Do you attend conferences or webinars, read journals, maybe follow some big names on social media?
Just rattling off a list isn't going to cut it, though.
No, you got to show how you're actively engaged. Maybe you read a paper recently that sparked a new research idea, or went to a conference and heard a presentation that blew your mind. Share those experiences. Let your excitement show.
That's great advice. All right, ready for a challenge. Question number 4. Can you describe a time you had to troubleshoot an experiment and how you resolved the issue? Every scientist has a story like this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Experiments fail all the time. It's how you handle it that matters. This is your chance to show off your problem-solving skills, that you can think critically and don't give up easily.
Like a scientific mystery you had to solve.
Exactly. RoleCatcher recommends the STAR method again. Pick an experiment where something went wrong. Set the scene, describe the problem, and then walk them through your process, step by step, how you figured out what went wrong and how you fixed it.
The guide is an example, right?
It does. One where a candidate's cultures weren't growing, they had to go back and check everything, test different theories, finally found out it was a contaminated region.
Classic. It shows you're systematic and persistent.
Right. What other questions do you think they'd ask about this?
Maybe they ask about your initial hypotheses. Or what other approaches you considered, what you learned from the whole experience.
It's all about demonstrating you can think on your feet and adapt to those unexpected challenges. Okay, let's shift gears to safety. Question number 5. How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others in the lab? Safety first, right?
Absolutely, it's paramount.
They're looking for your commitment to safety protocols, making sure everyone's safe.
It's not just about protecting yourself, but being a responsible member of the team.
Exactly. RoleCatcher says be specific in your answer. Mention the protective gear you wear, the protocols for handling chemicals and stuff, your knowledge of emergency procedures, the whole 9 yards.
Would they want to hear about specific safety training you've had?
For sure. Any special courses or certifications you've completed, definitely mention those. And think of any examples where you went above and beyond. Did you develop a new safety protocol? Train new people? Anything to show you take safety seriously.
Okay, on to question 6. How do you design and execute experiments to test a hypothesis? This feels like the heart of research.
It is. They want to see if you understand the scientific method and can turn a question into a solid experiment.
So it's not just about following a protocol, but actually creating one from scratch.
Exactly. Be structured and methodical in your response. Walk through your process, how you develop a testable hypothesis, what factors you consider, what kind of controls are appropriate, the whole process.
They probably want to know how you analyze the data too, right?
Absolutely. Mention the statistical methods you're familiar with and how you use them to make sense of your findings. You could even say something like, I use statistical software to analyze the data and draw conclusions based on the significance of the results.
Showing them you can handle a whole process, from design to analysis.
Right. Okay, question number 7 throws a bit of a curveball. It's still about teamwork, but it's how do you handle conflicts or disagreements with colleagues in the lab?
Conflicts happen everywhere, even in science. What do they want to hear?
They want to know you can handle those conflicts professionally, constructively.
At the end of the day, everyone's working towards the same goal.
Precisely. RoleCatcher stresses the importance of communication, being a good listener. You got to acknowledge the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree. And then try to find common ground, a solution that works for everyone.
So diplomacy and problem solving.
Yes, and if you have a specific example, a conflict you successfully resolved, tell that story. It'll really make your answer come alive.
Time for question number 8. This one is a classic. How do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively in the lab? That's a skill we all need.
Absolutely. But in a busy lab environment with tons of projects and deadlines, time management is essential.
It can get pretty hectic. How do we prove we can handle it?
RoleCatcher suggests highlighting your organizational skills and your flexibility, how you adapt to changing priorities. Do you use to-do lists, calendars, any project management tools?
Get specific, right?
Yeah.
If you have a system, tell them about it. Like color-coding your lab notebooks or strategies for dealing with interruptions. It helps them picture you in their lab.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention multitasking, how you prioritize effectively. They want to see you can handle the workload without losing your cool.
Okay. On to question number 9. Can you explain your experience with microbial genetics and molecular biology techniques? This feels like we're going deeper into the technical stuff now.
We are. Now's your chance to show off your knowledge of the molecular side of microbiology and the techniques you've used to study it.
So things like gene expression analysis, DNA sequencing, maybe even CRISPR.
Absolutely. And again, don't just list techniques. Give them examples of actual projects where you've used them. Have you cloned genes? Studied gene expression patterns? The more specific you are, the better.
What about any cutting-edge technologies? If you've used them, mention them.
Right. It shows you're on top of the latest advancements. Maybe you've used next-generation sequencing or microfluidic devices. Those are real attention grabbers.
So it's not just theory, but real-world experience thereafter.
Exactly. Show them you can walk the walk. And finally, we come to question number 10. Back to teamwork, but this time it's, how do you collaborate with colleagues and other teams to achieve research objectives?
This one's huge in microbiology, right? Because research often involves people from all sorts of different fields.
You got it. You might be working with geneticists, biochemists, ecologists, even doctors. It's essential to show you can communicate and work well with people from diverse backgrounds.
Being a good scientist isn't enough. Got to be a good communicator and team player, too.
Absolutely. Share some examples from your own experience where you collaborated successfully. Talk about how you shared your ideas, listened to others, and worked together to overcome challenges. Really brought it all together.
If you've worked on a project that spanned multiple teams or institutions, that's worth mentioning too.
For sure. It shows you can adapt and navigate complex research environments. So there you have it, 10 tough interview questions and some expert advice on how to handle them.
But we're not done yet. We still need to talk about how RoleCatcher's AI can take your prep to the next level.
Oh yeah, that's coming up next. All right, picking up where we left off with our microbiologist interview prep. Before we jump back into those questions, let's talk about RoleCatcher's AI.
Yes, we keep mentioning RoleCatcher, but how does their AI actually help in practice?
Their AI, called Copilot, it's not just generic advice. It actually analyzes your video rehearsals and gives you feedback specific to the job you're going for.
Wow, so it's like a personal interview coach, but it knows exactly what that employer is looking for.
Exactly. It considers the skills and experience that matter most for that role and helps you create answers that really stand out to the hiring manager.
So if I'm applying for a research position, it would focus on my research experience. But if it's a more clinical role, it would emphasize those skills instead.
You got it. It tailors your responses to each specific job, so you're not sending out the same generic answers every time. It gives you a real advantage.
It's like a secret weapon to boost your confidence.
It really is. And it's not just what you say. Copilot also looks at your delivery, like your body language, even your tone of voice. It helps you present yourself in the best possible light.
That's incredible. Okay, so now that we know how RoleCatcher's AI can help, let's get back to those questions. Where were we?
We left off on question number 7, dealing with conflicts in the lab. But before we move on, let's take a quick look at the career guide.
Oh, good idea. It's important to see the big picture, and the guide outlines those typical career stages from entry level all the way to principal microbiologist.
And I really like the example profiles they have for each stage. You can really see what your future could look like, the skills you'll need to develop as you move up.
Okay, let's pick one. How about senior microbiologist? What does that typically involve?
A senior microbiologist, they usually lead research projects, designing experiments, analyzing data, mentoring junior scientists, pretty much running the lab.
Sounds like a lot of responsibility.
It is. They also handle quality control, making sure everyone's following procedures, getting accurate results.
That's a big deal, and it connects to those interview questions we were talking about, right? Like ensuring the accuracy of your data.
Exactly. If you're aiming for a leadership position, you got to show you understand quality control and good lab practices.
Makes sense. So listener, as we go through these next few questions, think about how they might apply to different stages in your career. What skills will you need to reach that next level?
It's all about continuous learning and growth. Okay, back to question number 8. How do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively in the lab?
That's a tough one. It feels like time management is a universal struggle. But in a busy lab, it must be even harder.
It is. Multiple experiments going on, deadlines, unexpected problems popping up left and right. It's a lot to juggle.
So how do we convince them that we can handle it all?
RoleCatcher suggests focusing on your organizational skills, your flexibility, how you adapt when things change. Do you use to-do lists, calendars, any project management tools? Be specific.
Yeah, if you have a system, share it. Maybe you color code your lab notebooks or have a strategy for dealing with interruptions.
Exactly. The more detail you give, the better they can picture you working in their lab. And don't forget to talk about multitasking, how you prioritize. They want to know you can handle the workload without getting overwhelmed.
Stay calm and focused under pressure.
Right. Now, before we move on to question 9, let's think about how RoleCatcher's AI, that Copilot we talked about, could help us with this answer.
Good point. How could Copilot make our response even better?
Copilot can analyze what you say and give you feedback, but it's personalized for the job you're applying for. So if the job description really emphasizes handling multiple projects, Copilot might suggest adding specific examples of how you've done that successfully in the past.
So it helps you connect your experience to the specific requirements.
Exactly. Your answer will be more relevant, more impactful, like having your own personal coach guiding you to success. Okay, ready for question number 9. Can you explain your experience with microbial genetics and molecular biology techniques? Now we're getting into the details.
Time for the molecular level.
Here's where you show off your knowledge of microbial genetics and the techniques you've used to study it.
So we're talking gene expression analysis, DNA sequencing, CRISPR.
All of that. Don't just list the techniques, though. Tell them about projects where you actually use them. Did you clone genes, analyze gene expression, use CRISPR to edit bacterial genomes? The more specific, the better.
And if you've used any cutting-edge technology, definitely mention that.
It shows you're at the forefront of the field. Maybe you've used next-generation sequencing to analyze microbial communities or microfluidic devices for high-throughput screening. Those are impressive.
They want to see that you have real-world experience, not just theoretical knowledge.
Exactly. Show them you can walk the walk. Now, before we get to the last question, let's circle back to that career guide for a minute. Think about how these technical skills connect to career progression.
Good point. The guide talks about the different career stages and the skills you need at each level. So how do these molecular techniques fit in?
Well, as you move up in your career, you'll likely have more responsibility. Designing experiments, mentoring others, contributing to publications.
So mastering these techniques is crucial for advancing to those higher positions.
Absolutely. The more expertise you have, the more valuable you are as a researcher and a leader.
Okay, ready for the final question. Yeah. How do you collaborate with colleagues and other teams to achieve research objectives?
This is a big one, especially in microbiology, where research often involves so many different disciplines.
Exactly. You might be working with geneticists, biochemists, ecologists, even doctors. It's not just about working with other microbiologists.
So you have to be able to work with people from all different backgrounds. Absolutely. That's why it's so important to highlight your communication skills, your ability to work effectively with people from different fields.
How do we convince them we're team players?
Give them specific examples from your experience where you successfully collaborated. Talk about how you shared your ideas, listened to others, and worked together to overcome obstacles and reach those shared goals.
Did you work on a project with multiple teams? Co-author a paper? Present at a conference with colleagues?
Perfect examples. And if you've worked with people from different backgrounds or areas of expertise, mention that too. Shows you're adaptable and can thrive in that kind of diverse environment.
So, we've covered a lot. 10 tough questions, advice from RoleCatcher's guides, even a look at the career path ahead. But before we wrap things up,
we need to talk about one more game-changing tool that RoleCatcher offers.
RoleCatcher's AI-powered interview practice tool.
Oh, right, their co-pilot. It's like having a personal coach right there on your phone or whatever.
Tell me more. How does it work?
It's really easy to use. You record yourself answering practice questions, and Copilot analyzes the video. It gives you feedback on what you said, how you said it, even your body language and tone. It's like having a mock interview, but you can do it anytime, anywhere.
So it's not just about the words, but how you present yourself, too.
Exactly. Copilot points out where you can improve, gives you personalized suggestions to make your answers stronger, and it tailors its feedback to the specific job you're going for, so it's super relevant.
Wow. That's amazing. Copilot sounds like a total game changer for anyone prepping for a microbiology interview.
It definitely is. Plus, it helps you build confidence and reduce those pre-interview jitters.
I wish I had something like that when I was starting out.
Okay.
So, listener, if you want to ace that interview, check out RoleCatcher's Copilot. It's a game changer. Gives you a real edge.
I agree. Preparing is just as important as having the right qualifications.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. The world of microbiology, those tricky interview questions, even a look at the career path ahead.
And we learned how RoleCatcher's tools, especially Copilot, can help you every step of the way.
But before we go, one last thought. The field of microbiology is always changing. New discoveries, new challenges, so many opportunities.
So as you start your journey as a microbiologist, never stop learning, never stop asking questions, and never lose that passion for exploring the invisible world.
What excites you the most in microbiology right now? Fighting antibiotic resistance, the human microbiome, or maybe the search for life on other planets?
Whatever it is, let that passion drive you forward. The possibilities are endless in the world of microbiology.
So, are you ready to unlock your potential as a microbiologist? Head over to RoleCatcher, check out their guides, and try out Copilot. Your dream job is out there. Go get it.
Good luck.
That's it for our microbiology deep dive. We hope you learned a ton and feel confident and prepared to ace that interview. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.